Hey, John, how you doing, man?
Hey, brother, how are you?
There we go. I'm good, man. I'm good. So I'm on the new Mac that I bought. So
That's what
I
I'm talking about.
don't even need the green screen anymore, man. Those days are gone.
That's what I'm talking about. A new Mac. I'm thinking about a new Mac myself.
Don't get the MacBook Pro. Hey, before you buy it, call me. I'll tell you exactly how to customize it.
Sounds good.
I got you, my friend. I got you. Good morning, though. We got Alexa, we got Michelle, we got John or Michaela. Sorry, Michaela rather, and John. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Say good morning. Say hello. Where you guys from?
Good morning. I am Alexa. I'm at Team Heidi at EXP.
Cool.
So I'll be mobile. I have my daughter right here. I got to bring to the babysitters.
No worries. Cool.
That's awesome. That's
Mom life.
awesome. Multitasking.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. John Fitzgerald, how are you? Good morning.
I'm doing absolutely fabulous, Nick. How about you?
Doing great. Doing great. Have we met, John?
We've met through mutual acquaintances of Bill Price. I'm the broker in charge at Wilkinson Area Real Estate in the South Charlotte office. Had long conversations with Bill and John Smith, and so you've probably seen the name around, like as I have seen yours, Nick.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think we met. There was maybe a Charlotte Real Producers event or something of that nature. Sort of.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Saw
Yeah,
this
welcome,
on Facebook this morning, and I said, "Man, I'd love to get a little bit of good learning from." This is the Cynthia Mahaney's in the disc presentation, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hopefully we'll be joining down here in the next few minutes. Yep.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. And Tim Brown. Hey, Tim.
Hey.
There you go. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning.
We got Team Heidi rock stars on the call this morning. Sounds good.
All right, Cynthia on yet? Not quite yet.
Nope, not quite. A couple minutes early. It's good. It's good.
Early. It's all right. I'll give a little bit of heads up to the people here, and of course we'll repeat it once Cynthia joins and more people. Today we're going to be talking about disc profile, what that means. You're probably all familiar with it. You may even have already taken a disc profile test at some point in your career. I would suspect that's the case. I've taken a couple of them through my years. And so, of course, the different personalities that are associated with it. So we talked about an overview on Monday. So we brought in expert Cynthia, and she's going to be, I was looking at Tim Brown's name as I said that. Hey there, Cynthia. How you doing?
I'm spectacular, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
This can save you so much time and effort.
All right. Hey, Nick, you want to mute everybody?
Yeah, I'm making you co-host too right now. Got it.
All right, cool. And it's still 9:59, so we'll give a minute. I know Cynthia has been nice enough to take time to join us today. She is in Idaho, correct, Cynthia?
Correct. Boise, Idaho.
She currently lives in Idaho, but there was a time that she was with us in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while before she just felt the call back to the West. And I get that.
All to the wild. Yeah. I lived in Charlotte for 10 years.
Yeah. So the pictures on your Facebook, of you out running or the scenery and everything looks amazing.
And it doesn't even do it justice. It's so beautiful out here.
That's great.
Wow.
That's great. Well, as I said, we're getting 10 o'clock, but Cynthia's been kind enough to come on and share with us. Now that's 10 o'clock here. I'm sure we'll have a few people join us as we usually start between 10 and 10:05 for people to jump on and jump into the class. But I know Cynthia's time is limited. She has another important meeting right at 10:30. So we got to make sure we get right into the subject so she can go ahead and exit and make sure she's on time to her next appointment. But for everybody here, I appreciate you joining us. As I said, this week's topic has been disc profile. We have a different topic every week, but this week has been disc profile. So on Monday, if you were here on Monday, we did an overview. We talked about this profile, kind of what yours looked like, what that meant to relating to other people. But as we always do on Wednesdays, we bring in an expert to talk about this. So in the limited amount of time that we have, Cynthia isn't able to necessarily do her full presentation. But again, she was generous enough to come on and be able to give her passion and her energy to share with us some important tips and things to look out for and kind of look for, I should say, when we're engaging in this practice and trying to, I think that's a good way to put it, Cynthia, is practice, practice. So I wanted to give a little bit of a brief introduction to Cynthia. As we've already talked about, she is currently in Idaho, but she was in Charlotte, North Carolina. She started her business in 2009, and correct me if any of this is wrong, Cynthia.
My real estate business in 2009.
Correct. Started a real estate business in 2009, kicked off with success being Rookie of the Year, I believe, at that time. And during her early process, felt called to kind of be a trainer and a coach and a support to other agents. And it led her in the direction of really being a Keller Williams University certified coach. And again, if I'm using any of the wrong things, please correct me. It's a certified coach. And she really dug down deep into the benefits and aspects of disc profile and how it can bring success to your business. So without any more, waste of that time, she travels, she speaks all over. She's in high demand. So we're really, really thrilled that she could be here today to join us. So I'm going to kind of let you take it from there. We'll ask questions as we go through the process, Cynthia, but I'm eager for you to get started and share your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much, John. It's an honor to be here. As John was describing me, I'm like, my high I love bucket is just getting fuller and fuller because oftentimes those of us who lead with our I, words of affirmation are one of our primary love languages, which is not related to DISC. However, there are a lot of crossovers with that. So thank you again. And thank you to all of you who are here. I love this turnout. This is a fantastic turnout. So I want to jump right in because I could talk to you literally all day long about DISC, because understanding the concepts and utilizing those concepts in my everyday life, both in my personal life and my business life, literally changed my life, which is why I took it upon myself to create a course to share with people what I had learned, because it was so incredibly impactful. And at the time I was in real estate. I had a large successful real estate team. And once I lost the passion for that, as my passion for DISC grew, I shifted gears. So now I own my own coaching and training business and couldn't love what I do more. So John said that it would probably be the best use of our time today to go over some practical application. I would love to give you a more in-depth understanding of DISC, and we just don't have time. So if at the end, John, I have actually a document that I can send you. I didn't think about it until this morning. I have a document that can kind of give you more information about DISC. And if you email me,
okay,
I will email that to you. It might not be today, but I will email that to you and you can forward that to everyone, which will give you kind of a cheat sheet go-to.
Great, thank you.
So one of the primary things that I want you to realize is that the way you are naturally wired is amazing. And the more self-awareness you have around that, the more options you have to learn and grow to where you can become aware of how you're naturally wired holds you back, as well as how it propels you forward. So everybody's personality style is amazing. I don't ever want anyone to change who you are. Now, with that said, when we are communicating with, presenting to, leading, or even in a personal relationship, parenting, someone who is wired differently than us, then this is where the big disconnect comes in. One of the things I teach in my course is, we all learn about the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I encourage you to ditch that rule and implement the platinum rule, which is treat others the way they want to be treated. Present to others the way they want to be presented to. Negotiate with your buyers and sellers. Negotiate with the cross-sale agent with the way they want to be communicated with. And what that does is it increases your chance of achieving the outcome you want. Now, I have two different courses, well, actually three now, but in my course, Art of Asking Powerful Questions, I teach people how to identify the outcome you want from any given situation. So let's take real estate, for example. You have a listing presentation. The outcome that you want is to get the listing signed, to take that listing. So that one's pretty simple, but I encourage you in any conversation that you have, ask yourself prior, or any meeting or anything that you do, ask yourself, what is the outcome I want to achieve? And then you follow that question with, great, what has to happen in order for me to get there? So let's go back to the listing presentation. I understand you all understand how you are wired. Is that correct, John? Did everyone take an assessment?
Well, I was gonna say, Cynthia, it was actually our challenge on Monday that we gave the link to everyone. So we were actually gonna review those today because everyone should have taken it by now.
We're gonna briefly go over.
Yeah.
Okay. Have people received their report yet?
I think, like, again, on
Some have, some
we did an overview, offered the link. I'm not sure how many necessarily did the homework or whatnot, but I think for the most part, people are kind of aware of it, but I don't know if it was diligently done.
Okay. So take what I'm sharing with you here, and if it doesn't quite make sense yet, just tuck it away and save it until you have a better understanding based on what your report says, since I don't have enough time to help you understand just in conversation what that means. I'm going to jump forward and give you some practical tips that you can take away from here today to be more effective in your business and in your personal life. So going back to the listing presentation, I'm going to stereotype here for just a minute. Oftentimes, the natural behavioral style of successful salespeople, aka real estate agents, is someone who leads with their I and their D. Typically, people lead more strongly with 2 of the 4 different behavioral styles. So personally, I lead with my D and my I, both at 100%, which is really committed to that behavior, which can also pose a problem because I am so committed to that behavior that sometimes it might be more difficult for me to adapt that when the situation calls for it. All right, so I lead with my D and my I, which means I'm very fast paced. I'm not detail oriented. I love people. I get my energy from people. I'm driven to achieve results. So we'll take that going into a listing presentation. Now, let's say that I am presenting to someone that I have identified, and I'll talk as much about that as I can, that I have identified as someone who leads with their S and their C, especially their C. What that means is they are going to be more perfectionistic, more analytical. They're going to be less trusting because they need proof before they will believe you. So these people are typically the accountants, the engineers. They typically are more quiet. They don't think with their mouth, they think inside their head. And when they do speak, they actually have something valuable to say because they don't use up all their words until they're ready to speak on whatever topic it is that they want to discuss. So in a listing presentation, this can potentially pose a problem for me because if I go in and deliver my listing presentation the way I'm naturally wired, I am not going to connect with them because they are not wired that way. They are wired the exact opposite of me. So the goal is to understand that not everyone is wired like you are. Therefore, don't treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Once you identify that and you know that this behavioral style is going to need more analytics, more graphs, more proofs, more statistics, like come up with statistics 6 ways to Sunday. If you lead with your I and your D, chances are you do your market analysis, you get to the bottom line, you find your range, you're good to go. Let's just get this done and taken care of. But that is not how someone who leads with their S and their C works. You're going to need to slow down your rate of speech. You're going to need to not come in there like a bat out of hell, all excited to share what you have with them. You need to check your ego to make sure that you don't just promote how awesome you are, but promote the numbers that you have achieved. Because what they will hear from you promoting the numbers that you have achieved with statistics, what is your average list of sales price? What is your average days on market? And I'm not sure of the makeup of this group here, but if you don't have an established history with some amazing results, use your firm with their statistics and their results. So you don't want to promote yourself. Again, this is to someone who's opposite, that leads with their S and their C. Don't promote yourself, promote your numbers. Promote data that they can look at and see, and then you will begin to earn their trust. People do business with people we know, we like, we connect with, and we trust. So the goal is first and foremost to make that connection. Now, it's a lot easier to make a connection with someone who is wired similarly to you. It is even easier to make a connection with someone who is wired similarly to you if you lead with your I, because the high I's are the people. They love people. People who lead with their I also tend to be more optimistic and trusting. So they let you into their private life a lot easier and faster than someone who leads with their C, who is more private, more skeptical. Like, why do you want to get to know me? What are you going to do with this information? With all of these questions that you're asking me? Whereas the high I is going to be like, sure, I'm an open book. Just ask me I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So going back to the presentation, once you understand that not everyone is wired, then you can adapt your entire presentation to specific styles. And again, understanding how to identify the different styles can be a challenge. So let me give you as much information as I can as to what to look for in identifying the different styles. I'll just go through DISC. For someone who leads with their D. Now, when I say leads with their D, that means that primarily they have D characteristics showing up in their world. When you get to your graph, I'm not sure which assessment that you took. The graph I use has a bar graph. The higher the bar is on that graph, the more committed you are to that behavior, which means you are more likely to see those behaviors show up in more situations in your life. It also means that when you need to adapt to bring that down, that it may take you a lot of energy. Now, we can all adapt our behavior for a period of time, but if we have a significant adaptation over a long period of time, that's going to drain us of our energy. So adapting should be done effectively in short spurts, like for a listing presentation. All right, going back to the D, what to look for. Oftentimes, your first contact with a buyer or seller is going to be over the phone. That can be more tricky because you're not able to observe their behavior. DISC is a measure of observable behavior. It predicts how people tend to act. It does not measure intelligence. It does not measure skill. It does not measure emotional intelligence. It measures how you act. So over the phone, for someone who leads with their D, listen for their rate of speech. If they speak with a more quick rate of speech, that is something that you can start to identify, well, maybe they lead with their D. They're very results oriented. So listen to how are they talking about what are they wanting to achieve? Do they want to sell their house quickly? Do they, and of course, the opposite of all of this is going to indicate the S behavioral style, but their pace over the phone is something that you're going to listen for. If they seem to be, if you start to feel like they're becoming impatient, that's another primary characteristic of someone who leads with their D, is their level of patience. They're likely not going to give you an abundance of information. They're just going to give you quick high-level overview. This is what I need. How can you help me? So that's the D style. For someone who leads with their I, the things you need to watch for is also rate of speech. The D and the I both share that they are more active styles. And so the I style tends to be very outgoing, very gregarious. These are the people with the good personality. So with the high I, listen for a voice inflection change. High I's tend to talk with passion, talk with emotion. It is difficult for us to disguise our emotions. We wear our emotions on our sleeve. So listen for excitement, for enthusiasm. Now, this may be difficult to uncover if they're calling you and they don't really want to make a move, or they don't really want to move to Charlotte, but their spouse's job is relocating them there. That might be a little more difficult. But these are the people they're gonna talk in stories. And they do what I call the verbal process. So we think with our mouths, and oftentimes we're not even quite sure what our point is because we haven't talked through it enough. So high eyes, verbal process.
Guilty.
Yeah, me too. You may have to interrupt a high eye. And I'm going to sidetrack here and give you a great tool. I'm a huge fan of setting expectations. So if you end up going into business with someone who leads with their eye, whether it's a listing or a buyer, and after you have gotten a level of trust from them, if you find that these are the super talkative people, I would ask them if at any point in the future when we're having a conversation, if my time is limited, is it okay if we keep our conversation brief?
Wow.
That will help set that expectation, because unless they have self-awareness around what I'm sharing and how they're naturally wired, they're probably not going to have a clue that they talk way too stinking much. So asking them that up front will make it easier for you to interrupt them when they are going on and on and on and on, and say, remember when we talked about possibly having limited time? Well, now is one of those times. So I need to bring you back. We need to get our goal accomplished here.
Good.
So they are the super talkative people. The S style is the most difficult to identify and the most prominent behavior in humans. And what I mean by that is that there are more humans on the planet that have a high level of S than any other behavioral style. So they tend to be one of the most difficult to identify. And one of the reasons is because they like to fly under the radar, especially if their second leading behavioral style is C. So remember, I mentioned that we typically lead with 2. If our second leading behavioral styles can have a significant impact on how we show up. So if someone who leads with their S, their secondary style is a C, they're going to be even more quiet, because the S and the C style have in common that they are more passive than outgoing. The D and the I are more outgoing, the S and the C are more passive. So they're going to be more quiet. They're going to naturally give you less information. So sometimes the best way to identify someone who leads with their S is to eliminate all of the other behavioral styles, and you're left with, oh, possibly they lead with their S.
Gotcha.
So for someone who leads with their S, the things that are going to be more important to them are things like making sure, like if they have children, for example, these are the caretakers. They want to make sure that everyone in their world is taken care of. So they will frequently put other people first. So they may want to make sure that there's a community for their children to play with, or they want to know what to expect. So they may ask a lot of questions about the process. They are not going to care so much about who you are and what you have accomplished. They are going to care more about how you can take care of them and how you will be there for them each step of the way. So listen for them to be not as chit-chatty. They are cordial. They do enjoy people. However, they enjoy people that they already know, like, and trust. Versus the I style are the people who think strangers are just friends that they haven't yet met. How are we on time? Oh, geez. Okay, the C style. So these are the compliant, conscientious analyticals. These are the people who actually, if you know anyone or you are in a relationship with anyone who leads with their C, they use less voice inflection. Their voices tend to be just more monotone. They tend to speak more quietly and with less passion and enthusiasm. That doesn't mean that they don't have passion and enthusiasm. They do. They just feel it on the inside, instead of those of us who are opposite, those of us who lead with our I, feel everything on the outside, and we share that with everyone. So what you're going to be looking for with someone who leads with their C is asking detailed questions, giving you detailed answer. So, Mr. Buyer, what is it that you're looking for in a home? I want a 2,700 square feet with 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathrooms with the main, what do we call it? The master bedroom on the main level with a backyard that's fully fenced with at least half an acre. Okay, those descriptions are going to be something that sounds like they're coming from a C versus someone who leads with their I saying, well, I just want a house big enough so the kids can play in the backyard and we have lots of friends and family around. Two completely different answers. And then I could go into a whole nother discussion about how to ask better questions to make sure that you understand what they're saying, because your perception of what they're saying might be completely different from theirs. So the C style, you're looking for the more analytical, the more perfectionistic. They too can be a little more difficult to identify, but if you are really having to pull information out of them, and if they feel like, if you feel like they're maybe giving you pushback, that might be an indication that you're speaking with someone who leads with their C. Oh. Once you have done your best to identify that, now this goes not just on the phone, but when you meet them in person, you may get some more clues. Understand that once you've identified this, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. If someone is a complete jerk to you on the phone from the very beginning, they're likely going to be a jerk through the entire process. Now, being a jerk isn't related specifically to behavioral style. However, people who lead with their D can get a bad rap because we tend to be, I was going to say rude and abrupt. That's a perception. We tend to be short and very goal-oriented, and we don't like a lot of fluffy chit-chat and let's like move on to our next goal. So that can be perceived by others as being rude and abrupt, where that may not be the intention of someone who leads with their D at all. So the way you do anything is the way you do everything. You can expect people to act the way they are naturally wired in every single situation. Okay, we have 8 minutes. I literally have a call, so I have to be very conscientious of that time. I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions and answers. And before I do that, because when I see my call come in, I'm going to be like, okay, bye. And I have to go straight to my call.
Absolutely.
I want to share with all of you who are here today, my passion is for helping people grow. So if I said something here today and you want to learn more about it, I am happy to schedule time with you to help you with whatever that may be. John has my email address. John, I would ask that you just share that with everyone and reach out to me. I'm passionate about helping people. I am here for you for whatever you may need that will help you grow. So with that said, what questions might you have for me about anything I said or anything I didn't say?
Yes, and again, if again, our time is brief, it's 10:23. Cynthia only has 5 more minutes before she has to jump on her call. So if you have a question, we'll just take 1 or 2 quick questions, anybody, before I wrap up and summarize.
Hey, Cynthia, is it true that D is the lowest of the population?
Hi, Heidi.
How are you?
You're the only person on here that I actually know. Yeah, yes, especially in the pure form. So when we're talking about people who lead with our D, there isn't really anybody who leads 100% with any one behavioral style and not the others. We are truly all made up of a combination of all 4 of these in varying degrees. But for people who lead with their D at the highest level, yes, that is the smallest amount of human population. However, in our industry, it's not, because we are in a sales industry. So we are going to come into contact and be surrounded by far more people who lead with their D than if we were just in the general world. Does that make sense?
Yes. So when you take a DISC test and it comes back and says you're this, but this is your adaptive style, then that what does that mean when it says that's your adaptive style?
That's a great question. So first of all, I want to remind you all that you are human. You are not an algorithm. So right. Don't get lost in your graph. Don't get lost in, well, this says I am this, so I must be this. That is not your identity. Now, however, with that said, the graph is going to be spit out based on how you answered the questions or based on how you organized, depending on your assessment. The natural graph is how you show up in an environment where there was no outside environmental influence influencing how you would naturally behave. So there isn't any situation where you feel like you have to be different than who you are. The adapted style is how you are currently showing up in your current environment. Now, frequently, the two graphs mimic one another. They just look similar, very similar. Seldom are they exactly the same, but frequently they mimic each other to where you just glance at them and they're like, oh yeah, those kind of look alike. If the adapted graph looks significantly different, like if there is a more than a 40 point differential in the two scores, again, the one I use scores 1 to 100. If there is a significant difference and your graphs look different, what that typically means is that there is something going on in your life right now where you feel like you are having to adapt who you naturally are or how you would naturally show up to accommodate something, to accommodate a position, to accommodate a situation. Sometimes, like maybe you move across the country and you're starting your business from scratch. Your adapted style might look a little bit different. Does that help, Heidi?
That is very interesting. It was like you were talking to me.
Well, good.
Because I did move across country to start my business all over.
Where did you move?
To Las Vegas.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, we could talk for hours. So
yeah.
Any other, I actually know Heidi from when I first got into real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
What other questions do you have? I have 4 more minutes.
Quick questions. We only have 1 more minute. A quick question, anybody?
Cynthia, could you talk about like, could you talk about like visual indicators of people's personality types? What can we be looking for there more than what they're just saying?
Perfect. So again, the high I is going to be, I don't think I said this, but the high I is typically the easiest to identify. For females, now this is not across the board, but oftentimes the females who wear the big flashy earrings, the bright colors, and who are all put together with their hair done, that's an indicator that that person leads with their I. Someone who is dressed more traditionally, nothing really stands out. Again, and they're more reserved, maybe they're observing versus participating. Another visual indicator that could be someone who leads with their C. The way our homes look, people who lead with their I tend to have lots of pictures on the walls. People who lead with their C tend to have more, what are they called? I have 2 on my wall right here. Certificates showing what they have achieved. The people who lead with their D also tend to have achievements displayed all over the place. Again, people who lead with their S, it's more difficult. They tend to be more put together, just in a more low key. So the high S is more difficult to observe. Our desks can be an indicator of personality style. Again, going back to pictures with the high I, or someone who leads with their D in their office space, especially if their second leading behavioral style is an I, their desk may be a little more messy. Like if I could show you mine, I would. It's a perfect example. So those are a couple of just quick indicators of visual indicators that you can look for.
I appreciate it, Cynthia. Appreciate it. I know it's 10:29. We want to respect your time and go. Again, Cynthia Matheny, I appreciate it. She's a Keller Williams University national coach, creator of Disc Unlocked, and owner of her own coaching and training group. I know a speaker as well too. She's been doing it quite a while. She's kind of specializes particularly in the disc profile assessment. So again, thanks so much. I know you got to go, Cynthia, but I will put her in contact information. But of course, you can find her on Facebook or whatnot. If you want to reach out to her, ask her about trainings or opportunities, please feel free to reach out to me. We can get you and connect with her. But thanks so much, Cynthia. I appreciate you so much.
I'm going to make one correction. I am not affiliated with Keller Williams as a coach.
Okay.
I hang my license there. I don't sell anymore. Gotcha. So that's the only, I'm a Keller Williams approved instructor. Just a tiny little tweak, but my coaching business is my own that I run. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to hopefully.
You are awesome.
Having the
Cynthia, we should
talk again.
Cynthia, we should talk about EXP. I'll call you.
Okay, Heidi. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Hey, and yeah, Cynthia, that was really good stuff. John, I appreciate you getting her on the call today, in that limited fashion too. And she gave, I think, more time than she she even planned to. So that was really good. And on that note too, I want to bring in our resident expert here locally, John Green, who has been a amazing buyer's agent and coach for Team Heidi, here locally, teaching, everything about buyers. Just an amazing person on the phone, amazing human being overall. John Green, welcome back. Thank you for coming back, because you've taught here before.
Hey, Nick. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Great, John.
Doing great, man. And you gave us some amazing stuff last time, talking about how to handle objections with buyers. And I assume that one of the strategies that you use the most when you're dealing with objections, because I saw here in the chat, some people are dealing with objections with people that were being jerks and stuff like that. I assume when you're working with buyers, you deal with a whole crowd, don't you? And how do you identify how to communicate and work through struggles and stuff like that?
Well, that's a great question. Coming back to the disc profile, one thing, as a buyer specialist, we're calling leads, we're calling people all the time. We're trying to get them on the phone, trying to see what's going on. And one of the things, it's very important, it's one of the few clues that we have, is someone's voicemail announcement. What do they have on their voicemail? If they're speaking real slowly and asking us to leave detailed information, well, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave more detailed information. If they're saying their name and leave a message, well, then I'm going to leave more direct information, more direct message right then and there too. So that's one big thing to do. Trying to listen to people, what they're and how they want to be communicated to. As Cynthia said, it's the platinum rule. It's not how I want to be treated, it's how they want to be treated, because they're the client, they're the customer, and they're always right, unfortunately. But coming back to folks that are jerks or problematic to deal with, I would say ask some questions, like, and just be upfront. Am I irritating you? Are we okay here? What can I do better to serve you? Ask the question. And sometimes it just calls people on the carpet, especially your D personalities in particular. They're just trying to run things through, trying to roughshod it, solve the problem, get through it, let's go. And maybe they're perceiving you as the problem by not reacting quickly enough. So come to them and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? Ask them, and they will tell you. Now, if it's a different personality type, if it's an S personality, they're going to be a jerk to you, but it's just not going to be so upfront. Okay. They're just going to maybe avoid you, maybe not return your calls, maybe not think that, maybe try to sidestep you without you knowing. So one thing that you want to do to them is don't be as direct. You want to go to them and say, hey, I just want your input on this. What seems, is there a problem that we've got here? Am I not doing something right? You want to be, S's want to be, they want to be very correct. They want to be very polite. So you want to, again, treat them that way too. So some people with your I personalities that are just off into different areas, I think we kind of perceive them as jerks sometimes because they just go off and do whatever they want. And full disclosure, my personality type is IC. So I'm always wanting to have a party, but I'm worried about how the hell the thing's going to turn out. So it's a very conflicting personality type. I'm wanting to have the party, but I'm never prepared enough. I don't have enough preparation. So I got a little bit of problem there, but I know the eyes, we just want to go off onto different other things. Maybe we'll avoid the topic. Maybe we're talking about repairs and they just want to go and talk about, oh, when can I move my furniture in? And it's like, no, we need to get through the due diligence request here, trying to bring them back into it and just go, you know, we can get you moved in here, but if we just need to come back and can we handle this, please? Can we just work on this for just a little bit? Give me 5 minutes with you, okay? And they'll joke around with them, have a little bit of fun with it. Don't be quite as serious with it because they won't react to that well, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think that's excellent, John.
And
Yeah.
go right ahead, Nick.
Well, I wanted to just continue on that note and ask you another question because this is meant to be conversational too, on this stuff, and I want to continue getting this great knowledge from you. And so, on that note, I think what you just mentioned is that don't take it too seriously because I find that 90% of problems happen from miscommunication. So, what is
Right.
your go-to question that you would ask somebody? Let's say you peg someone, you're like, okay, I think I know that they're an I, but turns out what you're putting out isn't really being received well. What's something that you might ask somebody that would give you maybe good indicators, that you've done in the past? What's a leading question?
Well, that's a little bit tough. One thing for me, I've been using the DISC so long in meeting people and working with them. It's a little bit internal at this point. So sometimes it's hard to even express it because it just happens so naturally. But with people, depending on what I'm first perceiving that they are, I start talking about, how can I help you? What is if it's on the phone, what is it that you're looking for? Leave it a little bit broad. Now, if they come back with something broad, then then maybe that's more of the I personality or even the S personality. If they're coming back with details of exactly what they want, what they're looking for, I want to see this house at 2:00 today. Okay, then that's probably more of the D personality. Or they've got, well, what are the HOA dues of a particular home and blah, 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 blah. And this, then that they're more data driven. They're probably more C personality. So first questions, just kind of leaving it more broad, Nick, to allow them to come back to me with what they're saying. I try to leave it a little bit more open-ended so that I can get a little bit more information and not assume that I'm going to go into something. Okay. I think it's easier for listing agents in particular, like Cynthia was talking about. You're going to someone's home and who answers the door? Whenever you come to the door, how is the house kept? You go into the home. Do they have a lot of pictures on the wall? Those type of things. Those are immediate indicators that a listing agent gets without even saying a word.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
so
you have,
go ahead, Heidi.
I was gonna say, you have to try to mirror someone's personality. Like for me, it can be difficult because do you have a clue what I am?
I'm going to say you're a SC, Heidi, for sure. Definitely not a D or an I. Definitely not.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I go to somebody's house and they want to start talking about their kids and they go on and on. I'm ready to pop my head off, but I have to slow down and I have to be somebody that I'm not. And it's hard, but you know what? That's how you learn to, do good business. I have one guy on my team and he says, he just mirrors whatever they are. And I hate it, but he puts it, he goes, if they're a whore, I'm a whore. If they go to church, I go to church. Just whatever they are, however they are, you need to be like that. And you need to slow down. And that's why it's so important to listen.
Yes, absolutely. Whatever they're telling you, you need to go back with. And as Cynthia was saying, it can take a lot of energy sometimes, but over time, I'll argue this, that it becomes more natural. It's like learning scripts. Scripts are somewhat like acting. And people go, oh, it just seems so foreign. It seems so plastic and everything. But the more you practice it, the more you mirror people, the more you're trying to relate to them in the way they want to be related to, the more natural it becomes and the less energy it will take from you.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice, John. And so let's we're at 40 minutes. We got a couple more minutes left. And I wanted to get to this too, because this was brought up on Monday, where we were talking specifically about buyers, right? Using the disc profile to identify who's the decision maker when you got a couple, right? So you're out showing a house with a couple. Is the one that's kind of steadily going from room to room. Do you stay with them and let the kids run around, right? Or do you follow the spouse who is, just kind of standing at the door and not really walking around? How do you use the disc profile to kind of identify, okay, who is the decision maker that I need to give more attention to?
Well, I think one thing with the disc profile, be careful of that. Someone that is D will be leading. You'll go to show property, you open the front door, and the D husband will be running into the house and just running on through it and looking at everything right ahead. The wife, which may be more of an S, may be just taking her time. She's the decision maker. Don't be careful about who you're pegging as making the decision. Spend time with both of them. I think that one thing is that people will be like, well, you just spent time with my wife. The D will be like, well, you didn't even ask me a question. I don't care what you were thinking, but you didn't spend any time with me. You were just over there with my wife. Be a little bit careful of that. You want to give attention to anybody, no matter what their profile is. Even if it's just catching up, running up to the D husband and going, hey, you okay? Everything look all right? Even if it's just that, and then go back to the wife and go, hey, this kitchen looks really great. All the kids can sit around the island here and do their homework. Those type of things. So you've got to, I don't know, get out of people's way sometimes. With the C personality, they don't need you talking about all the features of the home. They're there, they're pulling out the tape measure. They may just need you to hold the dumb end of the tape measure. Okay, that's all that they want. They know what they're doing. The eyes, they get excited about things. They start firing off questions about what they want to know and everything. A lot of times before they've even asked the question, they've forgotten that and they're off to the next question. But don't do that with a C. If they ask you a question, they want an answer probably to it. And don't tell them you're going to get an answer and not get that answer. You will lose trust with them. And if you lose trust with a C, hang up the hat. You'll be hard to get it back.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I know we're wrapping up at the end of our time here, Nick. I know unless there's anybody else that had a quick question for John as well too, before we summarize and wrap up, or want to give a quick share.
A quick question. So I guess anybody, Heidi or anybody, but the 40% differentiation on the test, can you I almost thought I got it, but I think I missed it. So she's saying the 40% differentiation was harder for you to adapt to, or what was she saying on that?
40% adaptation.
I think
40% differentiation.
I think Cynthia was saying between your adaptive style and your natural style. I think she was trying to say that if you've got that big of swing, that there's something going on with what you're trying to adapt to, like your career or whatever it is, that's significant there. It's a big swing.
I think Heidi was kind of describing it in terms of when she goes and sits down with people, and when they start talking about their kids, I believe she used the term, my head wants to pop. That's maybe a 40-point swing or gap from who the people to her. So I think
so it's harder for you to adapt to that style if there was 40% or larger.
Yeah.
Correct? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember once I went on a listing appointment and I was there and I was trying to, get through it. And the lady started saying to me, gosh, isn't it hard how you have to get up on a Saturday morning and get dressed and get out to work? And I was like, what are you talking about, lady? So but I mean, I couldn't say that to her. So you have to adopt it. You have to go conversation, even if it's not you.
Yeah, and she said that on a Saturday morning when you were at her house after having gotten dressed and gotten up and gone to the listing appointment, right?
Right. I was like, what is wrong with you? But anyways, there's nothing wrong with her. That's just her personality. That's what you have to realize. Not everybody's
right.
like you. So.
And the thing is, a lot of people in real estate, a lot of successful people in real estate are higher Ds. And frankly, higher Ds can come off as jerks, and higher Ds have less attention to other people and how they want to be presented to. So unfortunately for us in real estate, more of us high Ds, we need to pay attention to that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just like to say, you know, one thing is, and I think Cynthia brought up about this, is your personality profile and everything can shift dramatically with situation, okay, and how you handle situation. And as an example, just real quickly, I like to give examples. I just sold a home to our accountant for his mother. So he is extremely SC, okay? He paid $40,000 over the appraised value for the home.
Wow.
For his mother, his mother, okay? If this was for him or another situation, it would have never happened, but it was for his mother. So his SC, that got toned way down because of the situation.
That's a really unique situation, John. Not sure I've ever heard of that. That's definitely the situation will affect based on, you know, kind of personality type they are. Stephen, right. I wanted to get to you real quick too, because I know you had a question. Go ahead.
Well, I did take the test Monday, and I just saw this Monday, so this is the first time, and I went ahead and took it at 5-10 minutes, so right after we got off the call. Okay. And I was kind of surprised that D and I was equal on my numbers, and they were high, you know, equal. But I've been in sales for many years. How about that? I'm going to say how many, but my career has been in sales. So very low on the C, which was, I thought I was a little bit more analytical than that. And then the steadiness, or S, was, you know, fairly close, but it was interesting.
Well, C is like non-existent for me, Stephen. So I hear you. But I know we're getting long on time here, and but I appreciate you sharing that, because I know everybody's got things to do. So I took notes, so I want to kind of go over those again real quick, Nick, unless there's anything else, brother, that you want to share.
Let's do it.
All right. So never change who you are is the first thing I wrote down. I think that's good advice. We need to adapt, but changing, you know, it's just not. We just can't change. So we don't use the DISC profile test to say, "Ooh, I need to change." You are who you are. You know, there's opportunities to adapt. Platinum rule: treat others how they want to be treated. John also shared that as well too. I think that's great to remember. What is the outcome that I want to achieve? You keep that in mind as you're meeting with people, and that, or before you meet with people, that might be a good question for reflection to ask yourself. Not everyone is wired like you, I wrote down. This is good, as we kind of touched on. Adapting should be done in short spurts to avoid burnout, because again, you can't be not like yourself. So adapting is short periods of time until, as John said, the more you, I wrote down here, practice from what he said. The more you practice it and the more you do it, the more you'll get used to adapting, just like running. When we start running, maybe we can't go a long distance, but the more we practice and adapt, and even if it's our not natural style, we get better at it. So I think it's good to be conscious and aware of adapting our styles, knowing we're going to be who we are. So we have to look for social cues, whether it's themselves, how they, their body language, or even their furnishing. So that was kind of my overall kind of summary there. So again, thanks, John, and thanks to Cynthia. I know she's not on the call, but thanks so much to both of you there.
Yeah, John, I'll just say this, guys. I think it's been a great topic, great week. And if you have not taken that test, again, I'm going to post the link one more time, all right, in the chat. So just as a quick reminder, that's what we'll leave off with that, unless John Green has any magical words of advice as a C, because he wants to make sure all boxes are checked and T's are dotted. You know,
let me check my list real quick. Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
We're good? Okay. We're good. We're good, says John Green. All right. Again, yes. Thank you, John and Cynthia. And I hope everyone has a great week. And if you're in our EXP group, we'll see you Friday morning on the Impact Group calendar too, as well, for our next call. So everyone have a great week. See you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great.
Thanks, guys. Awesome stuff. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Michelle. Bye, Janine.
Bye.